Hi everybody and welcome back to another episode of It's All Well and Good with me, Abbie Nesbitt. You're joining me in the spare room. It's about 6:20. I'm basically running against time with lighting. I was trying to get this in before the sunset, but the sun sets so fast. Don't get me wrong, I am not complaining about the fact that the sun sets after 6 p.m. Girls, we did it. We absolutely did it. If you've been following me on Instagram, you'll see that I put up a series of stories, little polls asking you all about Substack. You guessed it. This week's episode is all about Substack and why it is so pretentious, why it is so cool to be on Substack. And if you don't know what Substack is, well, you're going to find out. You're going to sit with me for maybe the next half an hour and we're going to learn about Substack. We're going to learn about little social cultures, online cultures, some trends, all that good stuff. You know I love to talk about it. Welcome back. It's good to be back as always. I had a little Carrie Bradshaw moment when I was on the train to Nottingham the other weekend to see Lily Allen. But yes, I was on the train and I was writing notes about this topic because I really wanted to delve deep into it. I wanted to do some research. I want to do that with my forthcoming, how posh, my next episodes essentially. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be being smarter, being more intellectual, doing more research, backing up what we're saying. But yeah, I'm excited for today's episode. I feel like I do want to do a brief catch up. Basically, long story short, I've seen Lily Allen. She was amazing. Obviously, you could never make me hate her. I don't care what you say. Next is I went on a hiking weekend. I think I did a podcast after that. It was amazing. But yeah, been on plenty of hikes, really doing well with my one hike a month New Year's resolution, and I've noticed such a big difference in my mental health, especially when I'm out on the walks. I feel like I've got less and less to decompress, which shows that the approach I'm having in my day-to-day life about stresses or things going on, I'm approaching them better because I've had more time to think of them elsewhere when I'm on a hike, for example. So get out there, touch some grass and go and see some views. We literally went to Wales and it felt like we were in Canada. I keep saying that and everyone's like, Abbie, you were just in Wales. But yeah, it felt like we were in Canada, or at least I did. Let's jump into it. What is Substack? What do you know of Substack? Is this the first time that you've heard of Substack? Do you hear it briefly mentioned in conversations when you're having a pint with your friends and people are like, oh yeah, like I seen that on Substack? Or, oh, I got Substack the other day. Or Charlie XCX wrote something new on her Substack. I really want to read it. Where have you heard Substack? And if this is the first time that you're hearing it, you're going to hear a lot about it. The first time that I heard anybody talk about Substack was probably, just like I said, through Charlie XCX, doing a lot more writings on what she felt about film adaptations, for example, her celebrity and how she acknowledges her celebrity and what it's like being a celebrity person. And I always thought, oh, what is that? Like, is that just going to be another app on my phone? Do I need to have another app on my phone? Probably not. Do I need to try and force myself to read more articles? I mean, absolutely, but I don't even read that many anyway when I have access to news apps on my phone. So what difference is a Substack going to make? I thought about it for a while. And then I was listening to the Miss Me podcast with Michaela Oliver and Jordan Stevens. Jordan Stevens was mentioning Substack basically in every episode, and I thought, right, I really like him. I really like his brain. I like how he works. So I'm going to download it. I'm going to follow him and I'm going to see where it goes. First things first, I loved going onto an app and it being completely like back to square one. No followers, no drama. Could set the algorithm if I wanted to, although the newsfeed was already preset, so I'm not really sure what algorithm they're running off with that one, but I was able to kind of start curating what I wanted to see from the app, which I really liked. So I followed Jordan Stevens and I read a few of his things, and obviously I was impressed. I think he's great. And then I started to read down through the newsfeed and what other people were saying. There was some philosophical articles, there was motivational articles, there was aspirational articles, there was health-based articles, there was science-based articles. Basically an encyclopedia one scroll away at all times. And I thought, you know what, this could be really, really refreshing. Then I started to notice some cracks. Likes, comments, saves, reposts. The font is different. It's not easy breezy, basic text. It's kind of like Times New Roman. And I haven't read that in ages. So yeah, I was a little bit put off. I was like, oh, this is just a learning curve. It's a new app. But let's go with it and see what happens. Over the past few months, I've noticed more people online speaking about Substack. I've seen a lot more creators, doing lots of reviews of different things on Substack, just more mentions of it here, there, and everywhere. I might be on a creator's link in bio and I'll see that they have a Substack. I'm like, oh, there it is again, becoming progressively more popular, or at least I'm noticing it more now because I've just entered that circle. What is Substack? So, one Google search away, Substack is an online ad-free platform that enables writers, podcasters, and creators to publish content directly to subscribers via email and a dedicated app, while monetizing through subscriptions. It functions as a hybrid blogging and newsletter tool, allowing creators to retain ownership of their content and audience lists, while taking 10% of revenue from paid subscriptions. As much as that taking 10% is a little bit of a knife, I guess that's how the app runs itself. So first and foremost, it's a place where authors can go online, publish their work without having to go through the traditional publishing stages of finding a publisher or finding a company that might publish your book, or, posting on your website when it might not be as successful, but there's already a platform of hundreds of thousands of people already there. So let's get Substack, let's put my stuff on Substack, and it goes straight out to a wide audience rather than trying to build up my own personal website. Obviously, that's generic. I'm not a writer. That's essentially the definition of Substack from an outside perspective, based on the AI generated definition that Google has provided there. But Substack's actual tagline is a new economic engine for culture. And then underneath it says Substack is a media platform for writing, video, podcasts, and creator-centered communities, all powered by subscriptions. So they've positioned themselves as an alternative to social media, it seems. A place for writing, newsletters, and direct relationships with readers. But relationships, the point that you can have a relationship, or you can hand to hand give your subscriber content, seems close. It seems close. It seems like social media. At least it feels like social media. Why do people love Substack? Aside from the ability for writers and creators to easily monetize their content, back in 2021, when Substack only had 500,000 paying subscribers, there was a flurry of articles and blogs written about Substack and its rise. But little did they know how far this growth would go in a matter of years after. So why is Substack cool? Why are today's it people on social media reaching for an alternative social media haven online? Why have online users of other social media apps had enough? From a feminine point of view, women have always inherited a love of like columns and essays and blogs and gossip from cultural, savvy, effortless, hyper-perceived personas such as Sex and the City, Gossip Girl, and Bridgerton. And although these are 21st century television shows, they utilise this trend to capture the audience's attention through an interest in writer's narrative. For example, in the first season of Sex and the City, you can see Carrie turn around and speak to the camera. She's narrating the show. She's also presenting the show. She's bringing you with her throughout the show. There's always that kind of like gossip element to it. So with that, it kind of feels like you're in the show, like you're going along with them. The characters may be turning around and speaking to you. It's breaking down that fourth wall, and it's making you a part of the show. So I've got like my thought process here. But after 43 minutes, the viewer may naturally lift their phone if they haven't already been second screening. Again, that is something that I want to touch on in a different episode. To find that their online digital communities or content doesn't quite feel like the escape they've been a part of for nearly an hour, wanting more of an escape, a deeper escape through their phone. It can be argued that the rise in Substack users and subscribers can be linked to Gen Z's turn into more nostalgic, or the term is analog, digital, but there has been a rise in Gen Z and Gen Alphas reaching for analog technology, in the sense things that have actual push buttons, things that you have to plug into something else to press on, and then the whole thing works. Record players, for example, CD players, DVD players, digital cameras, video cameras, you get the gist. All of that bunch of technology that makes you feel like you're not on your phone. There has been a resurgence in this form of technology and nostalgia, and it started roughly around 3 years ago when digital cameras started to get trendy. Because like it's cool to pull out a film camera instead of pulling out your phone to take an image, and it's even cooler to post that online. I guess the way it could have been deemed cool is that the camera itself isn't directly related to social media. So to upload those images that have been taken on a camera creates more distance between the user and their social media channels, displaying a I don't actually need social media attitude. Now, these are assumptions and connections that I'm making between the trends that I've seen. So obviously you can think, speak, or hear differently about these topics. But the whole I don't need social media attitude alongside the nostalgic film or digital camera footage makes people look at their devices differently. It makes people feel differently about their screen time, about the content that they're consuming online. When someone takes out their phone to record or to take a picture, everyone automatically thinks, "Oh, I need to look my best. I need to look my best because I'm now being captured as what people know online as my digital self." So everybody starts like fixing themselves, fixing their hair, and then standing and posing and looking their best. Don't get me wrong, I do it too. When someone pulls out a disposable camera or a film camera, you've got one chance, and it doesn't matter because once it's taken, you can't even look at it. You can't even check if you look good. But once it's done, it's done. It's really capturing that moment where our phones almost feel like you can just infinitely keep capturing the moments, and then they become less moments. You're just actually recording life, and that brings in different feelings because not everybody wants to be recorded, blah blah blah. I'm spiraling. It's like when people take out their phones to take a picture, whoever is going to be captured is reminded of every single social media app that's on their phone, the messages that they haven't replied to, the calls that they haven't answered, the emails, phone, work, social media, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, stories. I haven't replied to that person. It becomes like a whole world of things. It feels more momentful to budge up beside each other and get a picture that's on a film camera. It automatically feels right because you've seen old pictures of your family members way back in the day, and in that moment you're like, well, that's us. So you get together and you take the picture, and I guess it says that people have trust issues with their phone or trust issues with themselves and how they view themselves through their phone. There is a little small social media phone detox book that we have downstairs, and it states that your phone is the most toxic relationship you can ever be in, which has kind of stuck with me. And I would like to say that it has affected my screen time. At times it has, and at times it hasn't. Anyway, yeah, no, I had to take a brief pause because I thought the camera was going to die. That was a nightmare. Static imagery and static content can only develop in one way, which is motion and video and sound. And just like that, camcorders became popular to the point that new companies started producing and selling digital cameras and digital camcorders. Companies like TikTok Shop, Amazon were creating what looked like digital cameras that took pictures in the same way old digital cameras would, but they were modern and you could buy them brand new. I mean, this is definitely like them just profiteering off the back of a trend, which I guess that's how business works, Abbie. But when it's Amazon and when it's TikTok Shop, it's just really, really wasteful because those trends come and go so fast. It just feels, it just gives me the ick. It kind of does give me the ick. Like there's loads of videos. I'll just say it. There's loads of digital cameras. There's loads of camcorders out there you can buy secondhand that work just as well. So buy them before giving into a company that is just going to give you something that's fueled with plastic and hasn't been made economically. At least do the economic thing and buy it secondhand. Like I bought this camera that you're seeing me on secondhand on eBay. Like I've just written here, these companies aren't regular, reliable, well-known camera brands. These companies were quick, cheap, and reactive product-making companies aiming to jump on trends and make a killing in a smash and grab motion. But let's chat about TikTok Shop and let's chat about consumerism in another episode because I've got a world of things to say about it and my journey into becoming a more sustainable buyer. But back to nostalgia. Nostalgia allows us to dream about things, about the way that it used to be, mixed with analog technology. It feels like we're in touch with our younger selves or a previous version of ourselves. And like I said, users may view their digital devices and how they use them with resentment, confusion, or ultimately fatigue, especially in an age when screen time is at its capacity and phone addiction is actually pretty normal. It's abnormal to actually not have a phone addiction. In a group of people, if there was one person that didn't have a smartphone, one person who didn't have social media, you wouldn't hear people say, oh, all of us here have a phone addiction apart from Peter. You would hear, Peter doesn't have social media before anything else. So how can I change this thing that I spend 7 hours on every day into something more enjoyable, something that's going to give me the same feeling as a digital camera or getting film pictures developed that feels like the process of selecting a vinyl and setting down the needle? Substack has entered the chat. Did you forget that we were talking about Substack this whole time? I took you down a little path there, but I now want to get into the relationship between the wave of new Substack users and the pretentiousness of using the app. Me saying that it's pretentious to use the app does come across like I'm applying a bias to it. I'm applying what I've seen, what I've heard online of how people kind of approach or speak about Substack. To me, it comes across as pretentious. It might not be pretentious. Maybe I'm kind of getting a bit wrapped up in this performative era that we're in where everything is performative. People reading books is now performative. You can be a performative male in order to get someone into bed. Like, there's different perceptions of everything because there's an extra perception of everything with social media. And you can also be perceived by thousands of people online. The world is crazy. Okay. We'll get into that some other time, maybe, if I can actually be bothered and it'll not give me an existential crisis. The relationship between the new Substack users, the pretentiousness of using the app, and where's this come from? And is it as simple as it's just cool to use it? To have a better understanding of the opinions around Substack, I jumped onto what calls themselves the heart of the community. That's their actual tagline. Can you guess the app? Maybe Twitter. It's not Twitter. It's kind of similar to Twitter, a little bit similar to Substack. It's Reddit. It's what reads and feels like the core of what Substack is trying to be, or at least has similarity to. Maybe like Substack is Reddit's distant cousin. Reddit had a lot of mixed opinions about Substack. A lot of people explaining how the content feeding functionalities, or should I call them the algorithm, are the same as other social media platforms. You interact in the same ways, and the app will feed you what it thinks you want to see. As you apply more features, you'll have a more refined feed of content. But we all know this. That's just really how the apps work and how algorithm works. So other opinions suggested that it is a contradictive development away from AI, as they read a lot of AI constructed articles. Even though this app and other users highlight the authenticity of Substack, which is entirely contradictive. People go onto Substack to view more comfortable, real, authentic content when actually they're not stepping further away from AI. They're actually stepping closer to it because they could be fed algorithmically AI generated content that is performed well, or the AI provider who has made the content is working with Substack as a business. It's funny how you can redesign or reframe an app and people can just assume that it's brand new, it's completely different. Although when you deep dive in between the lines, it can be quite similar. It can overlap. Like, we're doing the same interactions on Substack on what we would do on other social media apps. I think my conclusions are that Substack is a different app with the same functionalities. The content types do overlap with other social media apps. However, I think the starting point of the app, the core of the app, still stands. I think people are very much standing with what the app is and what it does provide. It's really just down to the users navigating this app in the way that it should be done without trying to blend or feed or kind of greedily expect other social media platform features. I've written here that the production of writing blogs, poetry, stories, articles, research, like that's the app's USP, the unique selling points. I guess I hope that the app does keep that, because we do need more human-based content, kind of like pen to paper content, than what we do see online of camera footage, reel-based content. So I guess I hope it does stay with its USP instead of turning or merging into potential other apps like Meta. I wanted to know more about what my audience thought about Substack. So I posted a series of questions on my Instagram story, just short form polls asking people if they used it, what they use it for, do they think it's related to Reddit, etc., etc. So I'm just going to go through the answers. And although this is a small sample, I think the answers actually speak more for themselves, even though the sample is very small. There was nearly a 50-50 split of people using Substack versus not using Substack, with users taking the lead. So people who use it take the lead. So there was about 57% of people use Substack, which I thought was quite interesting, because I thought there would be more people in my sphere that would use it. But I guess it's still in that growing phase. It only had 500,000 users about 5 years ago. The majority of people use it for reading articles, with equal votes for a healthier scroll and I want to keep learning as their reasons for using the app. 75% admitted they do subscribe to authors that they like. And I think I should have said on the story that subscribing means that you're paying the author for their content rather than following. The lines can blur between subscribe and follow. I guess that kind of comes with YouTube. I should have said that subscribing means that you're paying for the creator's work. If everyone, which was 75%, do subscribe, I guess that's great. That's exactly what the platform is for. People should be paid for their hard work, and I guess that not everybody can pay those people for their hard work given the current climate, and that's why there was 25% of people said no. I asked if the rise in Substack users would maybe link to the rise in analog or print media. 92% said yes, with only 8% saying no. I guess people understand that there is a huge wave of nostalgia and a step away from heavy, excessive social media that we see every single day. So in turn with like the escapism for Substack and coming away from it, I guess, has swayed people to think that, yeah, exactly, it is related. So alongside 92% of people saying that Substack does make them feel better about their screen time and the content that they're consuming, 64% have also agreed that Substack is not a social media platform. So in my head, people are viewing as Substack as like, she's not like other girls. She's not like other girls. She's different. She makes me feel different, when in fact she's actually wearing the same pair of pants. Because I think I agree with the fact that it is a social media platform and it can make other people feel better about what they're viewing online. That's great. I mean, if you have a chance to kind of step away from the absolute aching headache that social media can be, and you can find something that's more informative, you know, you learn something, it's more intellectual, then that is fantastic. But also we can't ignore the fact that it is A and B testing. You've got, in the A group, you've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. In the B group, you've got Substack. Very similar. One's worked out really, really well, and the other is now coming through the ranks. It's A and B testing. It's the same. I feel like it's very similar formatting, just being tested in a completely different way with a couple of different fonts. I asked, do you think Substack is similar to or an evolution of Reddit? I knew this one would touch on how people feel towards Reddit, and I know Reddit itself can be a very niche platform for people to be on. I think I've only ever heard one person in my life say that they actively use Reddit every single day, and that was 5 years ago. I bet you any money that person is probably on Substack, but 75% said no. 75% agreed to the statement that Substack is not an evolution of Reddit. It felt like a hard no. It felt like leave Reddit alone. It's its own thing. It doesn't come into this. So I get the vibe, don't worry. Substack being mixed in with this performative world where things that you do is actually for a different reason, it's for your image, is tainting the actual image of the app, I would say. And it's maybe attracting users that the original users don't want to see on the app. There's a lot of conversation that you can have about that, about, you know, the whole performative male and people's online identities. Maybe we can go into online identities at some point. That could be really cool. But to finish off this segment about what my audience thought, I'm going to insert a voice note that I was sent by a lovely girl called Mila, and she had some really interesting ideas and interesting opinions about Substack and was quite excited to see that I was doing a podcast on it. So without further ado, here's Mila.
I think there is a pretentiousness around Substack when I see it online, in the sense that when I see people, like, I guess more influencer types, discussing their use of Substack, I see it kind of dropped into a video and quite a yeah, and I'm on Substack as well, like quite a pointed thing. So like you say, people using it in conversation seem more intellectual. But I see that more online, because in person, the only people I know that really use and speak about Substack often are very good writers who are like people I either know or I'm friends with, that write primarily about dance music and underground music and what that means to them, and dissecting different nuances in dance music today and like versus the past. They're all people that I don't see as pretentious, because it's something they're genuinely passionate about and are very good at, and when they speak about it, that's why they're speaking about it. That said, even them, because I do think this applies to everyone, sometimes I find it is, again, like over intellectualized and elaborating on topics that I think get over elaborated from certain perspectives. And by that, I just mean like a lot of, and this kind of goes back to it being an online thing, I see it as more of a pretentious thing that people say it to seem more intellectual. I see a lot of like white creators and influencers and more privileged people speaking about quite like nuanced issues and discrimination against certain minorities and race and class and gender, those sorts of discussion topics that get written and spoken about through Substack by privileged people. That I think comes off very pretentious and over intellectualized as well, because sometimes on Substack and about any topic, but especially this, it does feel like people kind of drag out the like the nuance and the ideas behind the piece of writing they're doing to try and sound a certain way, rather than to actually explore an idea and share their ideas. Sorry, I don't know if any of this makes sense. I am just rambling. But yeah, that's it. And I love that you're like, I've never, this is something I think about all the time, because I use Reddit and Substack so much, probably more than my other socials. So the fact that you're talking about this, and like, I love it. I'm really excited to hear about it.
Really happy with this first edition of my more informative or thought-provoking episodes mini series. I don't know if I should give it a name. I probably shouldn't give it a name, because the length of the name of this podcast is long enough. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you learned something new. I hope you come away thinking a little bit different about your media habits online, or just generally make a decision on whether you're going to download Substack or not. No pressure. But yeah, I will catch you in a few weeks for the next episode, and I'll be dropping the topic on my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram at Abbie Nesbitt, and you can get involved on my story polls as well, and you'll be able to see first come, first serve what the episode is going to be about. But yeah, I will catch you then. I'll catch you in a few weeks. See ya.